Hello, my friends. Welcome to Sleep with Stories. Dear listener, as the evening settles in and the world quiets down, take a moment to find your comfort. Let go of the day's worries and ease into this peaceful moment. Close your eyes and focus on your breath, feeling the rise and fall as you begin to relax. Picture a world full of wonder, where knowledge and discovery await. Tonight, we journey to a place where history, science, and dreams intertwine. So, let your mind drift, and let the story guide you into a restful, soothing sleep, full of wonder and calm. Tonight, we'll be walking the halls of perhaps the greatest library of the ancient world. And we might even run into one of the most famous scholars of the age while we're there. But before we embark on our journey, let's take a moment to unwind and settle in for a good night's sleep. Find a comfortable spot, close your eyes, and turn your attention to your breathing for the next few moments. Feel the air moving in and out of your body in a natural, soothing rhythm. Take a deep, slow breath in, and then gently exhale, allowing your body to relax even further. Let each breath become a wave, coming in, then flowing out. Like the ebb and flow of the ocean tide, your breath brings you balance and peace. Feel the tension melting away with each exhale, grounding you in the present moment. Just like the rhythmic sound of waves washing up on the shore, your breathing is a simple yet profound reminder that everything is in perfect harmony. The steady flow of air in your lungs, the calmness of the moment. This is your body's natural way of finding peace. Now, as your body becomes even more relaxed, let your mind embark on a gentle adventure. Imagine that feeling of lying in bed as the last rays of the day's light softly stream through the window. The salty, sweet aroma of the ocean reaches your senses, drifting into the room. The sea breeze lifts the curtains, causing them to dance lazily in the air. The soothing sound of distant waves crashes against the shore, a gentle rhythm that rises and falls. If you listen closely, you might hear the melodic call of gulls overhead and the occasional snap of a fabric sail in the distance. And here, at the edge of the Mediterranean, we find ourselves in the magnificent city of Alexandria in Egypt, where our story begins. Many, many years ago, you step out from the shade of your home and feel the blazing golden sun on your skin. The heat is tempered by the cool breeze blowing off the Mediterranean Sea. The air, warm and fresh, carries the scent of salt and earth. The gentle wind from the north tugs at the extra fabric of your tunic as you make your way down the hill. Your hand brushes against the rough, sandy-colored bark of a young sycamore tree that has only recently been transplanted here. Much like many of the buildings and people in Alexandria, this year is 241 BCE, and the city of Alexandria itself is less than a century old. The old fishing village that once stood here has long since given way to a city that is now one of the most important cultural and intellectual hubs of the ancient world. You walk through the Egyptian quarter, where the old village still lingers in the architecture. The traditional Egyptian lotus columns stand proudly, their capitals carved into intricate, beautiful flower shapes. You smile as you catch a glimpse of the older, mud brick homes hidden between the modern Greek villas with their truss roofs. This is your favorite part of the walk, this blending of old and new, where history and progress meet in a vibrant dance. As you stop at a street corner, you watch a procession pass by, a nobleman's parade, led by an important-looking man riding a magnificent Egyptian stallion. His entourage of impeccably robed servants walks in sync behind him, their eyes focused ahead. You glance down the hill and catch sight of the famous lighthouse of Alexandria, towering over the blue-green sea. The lighthouse, only recently completed, still takes your breath away every time you see it. It's said to be the tallest building in the world, and it certainly seems that way. The structure rises more than 300 feet from its base, crowned by a statue of the god Poseidon. As the morning sun glimmers off the limestone and granite, smoke billows from the lantern room, a guiding light for ships traveling from every corner of the world. The sight of the lighthouse, standing proud and tall, fills you with a sense of wonder and pride. Egyptian trade ships and Greek triremes bob gently through the harbor below, their great sails catching the wind, their oars working in unison. The harbor is busy, and there's so much to take in. Every day, the city pulses with life, and today is no different. Continuing on, you walk toward the Canopus Way, a bustling main street paved in stone. The way is lined with decorative pools, their waters shimmering in the daylight. The stone pathway stretches from the Sun Gate on the east end to the Moon Gate on the west. You pause at one of the fountains and sit down on the steps. The air is filled with the sound of water running over smooth stones, and you watch as children play, splashing in the water with carefree joy. You stop at a nearby vendor's stall and order a popular local snack, fried fish, freshly caught that very morning. Sitting by the fountain, you take in the busy street around you. Greek tradespeople walk past, engaged in friendly conversation about the quality of stonework in the new buildings, while Egyptian farmers with carts pulled by donkeys head toward the markets. A group of soldiers rides by on small Egyptian horses, and the rhythmic sound of chariots rolling over the cobblestones echoes in the distance. As you watch the activity, you let yourself become immersed in the rhythm of life in Alexandria. The city is a living, breathing testament to the blending of cultures. The Greeks have brought their power and ingenuity, while the Egyptians offer their timeless beauty and ancient history. All around you, modern technologies are in use. Aqueducts bringing fresh water into every district, plumbing providing luxuries like bathtubs, and water clocks marking the passage of time. You take another moment to appreciate the causeway that connects the lighthouse island, Pharos, with the mainland. It's nearly 3/4 of a mile long, and was built by the engineers of Alexander the Great. As you walk, you marvel at how far this city has come in such a short time. As the day comes to a close, the city's activity begins to slow down. The streets empty out as people return to their homes, but Alexandria's vibrancy lingers in the air. You head home, passing by the grand buildings and the breathtaking harbor. The sunset paints the sky with deep reds and purples, and you pause to admire it for a moment. It's a perfect end to the day in this magnificent city. Tonight, you'll rest, and as your eyelids grow heavy, you will dream of the Great Library of Alexandria, where the brightest minds gather to share knowledge and wisdom. Perhaps in the distance, you'll hear the faint whispers of scholars discussing philosophy, science, and art, as the Mediterranean breeze rustles the leaves of the trees outside. Even the layout of the city grid, with its wide cobblestone streets, is something of a marvel. Alexandria feels so dynamic, so cutting-edge, a true testament to what every modern city should be, you think. The careful construction of this city, blending cultures and knowledge, is as grand as the monumental lighthouse standing tall in the distance. But there is truly nothing that compares to the wonders held within the walls of the Great Library. As you walk along the Canopus Way, you catch a glimpse of a pair of friendly cats lounging in a nearby alley, their eyes following you lazily. You pause for a moment to greet them before continuing down the bustling street. On your right, the magnificent institution of the Muses rises into view, its towering columns and statues making their presence known, even from a distance. The Library of Alexandria, truly a marvel of both architecture and intellect. It is here that the world's knowledge is carefully gathered and preserved, its massive collection attracting scholars from all corners of the ancient world. Hundreds upon hundreds of students, artists, philosophers, and scribes move through the sprawling campus, their sandals tapping against the stone pathways as they pass. Gardens, faculties, dormitories, and an amphitheater are scattered across the grounds, all surrounded by the grand manors of the royal district. This is the very heart of art, culture, and science, and the library stands proudly at its center, a shining beacon of human achievement. As you approach the entrance, the front edifice of the library reveals itself, an impressive structure brimming with intricate craftsmanship. Countless steps lead up to its entrance, flanked by towering columns that hold statues of the Muses, each one immortalized in stone. The decorative bas-reliefs across the architrave depict Athena consorting with Alexander the Great, the God King, a powerful reminder of the intellectual legacy that Alexandria has inherited. It feels almost as though the library is a temple to knowledge itself. The scale of it all is nothing short of daunting. Though the front section of the library is only 2 levels, the sheer magnitude of the building and its purpose are overwhelming. The library is a monument to human understanding, an effort to collect, preserve, and pass on the vast expanse of human knowledge. You stand for a moment, letting the magnificence of it all sink in, before moving forward. As you pass through the front steps, students and scribes are sitting on the large stone steps, enjoying an early lunch, chatting amongst themselves. You noted a couple of attendants on your way through the domed lobby, where every inch of the space seems to tell its own story. From the mosaic floors to the frescoes above, each part of the library has its own narrative to share. The walls are adorned with recently completed artwork depicting scenes from history and myth. Many of these illustrations focus on Alexander the Great, who, according to prophecy, was believed to be the son of Zeus Ammon, the god of thunder. You can see him walking among the gods in many of the murals, his legacy immortalized in the art of the library. You make your way deeper into the building, asking one of the attendants about the head librarian. You are informed that the head librarian, Eratosthenes, is currently tutoring a student in the mathematics section. As you approach, you feel the warmth of the sun streaming through the rings of windows above you, with the muses' statues posing in every arch beneath the dome. The deeper you move into the library, the stronger the familiar scent of papyrus grows. It's the comforting, earthy aroma of wood, earth, and the faintest hints of spice, a smell you've come to associate with the pursuit of knowledge. The scent lingers in the air, filling your senses with a sense of anticipation, as if the very walls of the library are alive with wisdom. Scrolls of parchment, tied and categorized, are piled on every shelf. The shelves stretch as far as the eye can see, and occasionally, a scribal scholar will wander into a section, their hands eagerly exploring the different scrolls in search of new knowledge. Climbing tall ladders pushed back and forth by bored-looking attendants, scholars carefully select the scrolls they are after. The knowledge contained within the library is vast, encompassing everything from lyric poetry and natural science to medical texts, and the latest philosophical ideas. It is impossible to pick a favorite section. Every corner offers something new to learn. As you round the corner, you hear the soft sound of your leather sandals tapping against the stone floor. The echo of your footsteps seems to reverberate throughout the cavernous hall, drawing a few curious glances from nearby students. The mathematics section is relatively quiet today, likely because of the presence of the head librarian and his student. At a nearby table, a boy sits, looking distracted. Papyrus scrolls filled with complex equations about integers and irrational numbers are spread out before him. But he barely acknowledges your presence as you walk by in search of the head librarian. You can tell that this boy is no ordinary student. He is, in fact, a prince. The boy can't be more than 7 or 8 years old, dark-haired, with a strong resemblance to his father. Yet, despite his youth, he already carries with him the air of someone important. His disinterest in his homework shows that he's far from the typical student. But even so, his young eyes carry the weight of future leadership. Before long, you see Eratosthenes emerge from one of the rows of scrolls, his arms laden with piles of papyrus. His excitement is palpable, and you can see the glint of enthusiasm in his eyes as he steps forward. Eratosthenes is one of the most famous polemaths of the era, a scholar whose interests span rhetoric, science, poetry, and of course mathematics. He is the third head librarian of the library, having taken over the position just a year ago at the age of 35. His thick, bushy beard is streaked with gray, and his curly hair is already beginning to recede. Though his youthful energy and passion for learning are undeniable, you can imagine what a marble bust of his face would look like. Impressive, to say the least. But despite his accomplishments, his youthful enthusiasm often betrays his age. His excitement about knowledge, about uncovering the mysteries of the world, is contagious. As he walks toward you, he gestures for you to come over. "Come, come," he says. "I need you to retrieve something for me." With a wave of his hand, he casually asks you to fetch his treatise on the circumference of the world. He speaks about it with such ease, as if it were the simplest request. You know exactly where it is, down the hall where scribes are busy working on transcriptions. You make your way past rows of scrolls and busy attendants. The soft rustle of papyrus and the rhythmic scratching of reed pens filling the air. The scent of papyrus is almost overwhelming in this section of the library, but it's a comforting smell that makes you feel like you're walking through the very heart of human knowledge. You find the head librarian's treatise in a section filled with works in progress, where scribes are diligently copying and translating the great works of the ancient world. The treatise has been in high demand since Eratosthenes completed his calculations just over a year ago. Scribes have been working tirelessly to send copies to scholars in Cyrene and Athens, hoping to spread Eratosthenes' groundbreaking discoveries to others and encourage further advancements in mathematics. You carefully roll up the scroll and return to Eratosthenes and the prince. When you hand him the treatise, the head librarian unfurls the papyrus, his eyes lighting up with excitement as he reads through the first section. He explains his work with a voice full of passion, the words flowing easily as he speaks about the circumference of the world and the importance of data in understanding the universe. With enough data from any observable source, you can understand anything, he says, turning to the prince with a twinkle in his eye. He hopes the young prince will share his enthusiasm for mathematics and the exploration of the world. But the prince simply sighs, clearly uninterested in the subject. Eratosthenes chuckles softly and suggests they move on to the lyric poetry section for the rest of the afternoon. The prince's eyes light up at the mention of poetry, and you can see the fascination with myths and legends in his expression. He, like his father, Alexander the Great, is captivated by the stories of gods and heroes. As the two of them make their way to the poetry section, Eratosthenes asks you to stay behind and clean up the materials. You gently roll up the papyrus scrolls, feeling the texture of the rough material in your hands as you organize them. The attendants come over to help, and together you carefully reshelf the scrolls, preparing the section for the next group of scholars. For the next while, you continue working on your own transcriptions, keeping an eye on Eratosthenes and his student in case they need any more scrolls. Eventually, the prince is escorted away by the royal guard, and you find yourself alone with the head librarian. You follow Eratosthenes to his study to help him locate a scroll he has misplaced, one about the constellations. His study is as chaotic and complex as his mind, filled with scrolls and books from every corner of the known world. You sift through piles of ancient texts, translations of Egyptian sailors' tales, and commentaries on Homer's epics, searching for the scroll. At last you find it, buried beneath a mountain of similar writings. Eratosthenes uses a small mechanical device of his own invention to prop the scroll open. The device is an incredible creation, a model of celestial objects, meticulously crafted to scale. It is a perfect representation of Eratosthenes' devotion to both knowledge and invention. As you stand in the heart of the Library of Alexandria, surrounded by the world's greatest collection of knowledge, you are filled with a deep sense of awe. Here, in this monumental space, the future of humanity is being shaped, one scroll, one idea at a time. As the story comes to a close, let the lessons of discovery and knowledge linger in your mind. Just like the scholars of Alexandria, we all have a world of possibilities within our reach. waiting to be explored. The journey of learning never ends, and every new discovery adds to the beauty of our lives. Now, as you rest, let go of any lingering thoughts, and know that all is well. The peaceful night around you holds countless dreams yet to be discovered. With the stars shining above, and the wisdom of ages in your heart, allow yourself to drift into sleep. Embrace the calm, knowing that tomorrow holds new opportunities. Just as the scholars of Alexandria embraced the endless pursuit of knowledge. Sleep well, dear listener, wrapped in the warmth of peace and the quiet hum of a world full of wonder. Good night.